Hello everyone, welcome to another video of clay formations. Thanks for stopping by. Today we're going to be forming some clay into Shihulude, the sandworms of Arrakis. Any DUNE fans out there? I am. So in honor of the new movie that was supposed to come out a couple of months ago, I thought we'd make one. I have a microphone gooseneck that I form into the shape of some of the sculptures that I want. It's a little quicker than bending the wire, and then what I do is I just shape the wire according to how the gooseneck is, and it saves me a lot of time that way. Still have to make some adjustments here and there every now and then. Looks about right. I'm gonna have his mouth open like a three-petaled flower. Pretty much reminiscent of the original DUNE from 1984 by David Lynch. Just making sure that they're the right size. What I'll do now is I'll take twist ties and attach them to the other part of the wire. Then I'll take epoxy and glue it to the other part of the wire. This, it's like having a third hand, and it allows me to position something and get it glued on correctly, and then I will take the wire cutters and then I will cut off the twist ties, and there it is. And then I'll just repeat the process 2 more times. And sometimes you need a third hand. My wife there held it for me so I could at least get the twisty ties on there. Once I get that all done and wrapped in some more wire for strength, I add Epoxy Sculpt. And that secures it to where it simply will not move at all. No matter how much heat you apply to it or anything, it stays pretty secure. So here I'm adding some more wire, wrapping it around, just to give it some added strength. I think I used 3 strands of galvanized wire, about 1/8 of an inch thick. And then what I do next is I bulk up the piece. This saves on clay and weight. Sculpey clay is really, really heavy, and so is epoxy sculpt that I put around it. So you want to save as much weight as possible because they can get pretty heavy. Some more tin foil here. Looks like the claw from Toy Story. Alright, so I shaped out some thick pieces of tin foil and I'm attaching it to each of the 3 wires. That looks pretty good. So I went ahead and I covered it with Epoxy Sculpt. I didn't film that part because it's kind of long and boring. But it's a 2-part mixed epoxy, and it creates a really rigid surface to put your clay on. I really like it because I don't have to worry about things collapsing or squishing together. It gives the clay a really, really good base. Clay to the first part of the mouth. Making sure it's all even. Then I take my rake tool and smooth it out even more. Takes off all the high spots. Sometimes you just can't do it with your thumb and your fingers. No matter how hard you try to smooth it out, it just simply will not work. So the rake tool takes away just real small pieces of the surface of the sculpture and gives you a nice smooth surface to work on. Now I'm adding this plate armor, which is basically a strip of clay, and then I blend it into the surface of the clay that's already there. What I'm thinking about here is I have to do this 3 more times, not only for the outside, but for the inside as well. For the excess, I just cut it off with a palette knife. And before I texture the top one, I thought I'd go ahead and just do all the rest of them. Usually what I do is while I'm working on one part of a sculpture, I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to do another part. And this is one of those instances where I was really not sure how I wanted the texture to look. So that's when I go to Pinterest and other art books and I look at animals like turtles and snakes. Well, not snakes because I hate snakes, but dragon pictures, just to get a clue of how I want to do it. And no matter how smooth you make your armature, you're always going to be faced with a lumpy sculpture, so you still have to use the rake tool. Okay, adding more of the armor plating. Sometimes I really wish I could sculpt this fast. I'd get a lot more done. A wood palette tool works really good for smoothing out parts too. As you can see, the inside of the mouth still isn't completed yet. One more piece and I think we've got the mouth part completed. Well, the main form's completed anyway. We still have texturing to do. Alright, here we go with the texturing. I started out with a wood tool to get the basic deep lines in there. Just getting it in there real quick. And then I go in with a pointed wood tool and of course my silicone tools and loop tools and just get the texture the way I need it to be. As you can see, it takes several different types of tools to get it to look right. Now on to the other side. And I try to maintain the same pattern. I start with the same tool and then I just go on down the line with the next tool and then the next tool. Because believe it or not, sometimes you forget what technique you use to get the texture you wanted. All right. Now the fun part, covering the entire sculpture in thin sheets of Sculpey. This is pretty arduous. Come in with the loop tool to smooth it all out. I wanted to keep it a little rough so the rest of the armor plating had something to bite onto when I added it. All right. And what I wanted to do here is I wanted to get some scale patterns. Still wasn't exactly sure what I wanted it to look like, so I thought I would do some tests to see how I wanted the armor plating to be. So I put some clay through the pasta maker and I used my little cookie cutter tools there to come up with some scale plating. All right, let's add it to the worm. So I started to add it to the surface. I wanted this part of the scaling to look a little different than the mouth. And right about here is where I'm thinking this looks not good. Not good at all. He either looks like Kermit the Frog or somebody with Argyle socks. So, all right, let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. Yeah, here he definitely looks like Kermit the Frog. Okay, let's try something different. So, taking some thin strips of Sculpey and trying that. Kind of like the mouth was, but I wanted to do the texture a little different. And also when you're doing sections like this, what you have to remember, where the spine bends, the scales and the plates of armor have to sort of be a little closer together, while the outside of the scales have to have a little more space between them. That kind of gives it the look of the armor plating moving. Okay, so here we go with adding the texture, adding in some deep cuts. I wanted it to look really rough, really like it was almost like sand itself. Almost like a tree bark or something. The same look as tree bark, but more worm-like, I guess. Okay, yeah, that's coming along pretty good. Oh yeah, this is the fun part. Right here I thought I had plenty of teeth. I'm making them out of translucent Fimo polymer clay. Yeah, I thought I had plenty, but found out that I had to make about 6 batches that size. All right. Now for the inside of the mouth. What I did was I took original Super Sculpey and I put some red flecking in it. It's little tiny fibers, red fibers, and it gives it a, like, it looks like gums or the inside of a mouth. And I found out that that wasn't going to be thick enough, so I had to add some more clay inside the mouth. I had already baked the outside, by the way. That's the only reason why I'm able to touch the other side. If I hadn't have baked it before doing this, I wouldn't have been able to push on the other side with my thumbs. You can do that with Chavant clay, but not polymer clay. Still trying to get it all bulked out. I wanted it to look like the inside of an animal's mouth. I looked at the way dogs' mouths looked on the inside, and even studied the worms from the 1984 version of DUNE to see how that was. So here I'm creating the ridges that the teeth will go on. I have no idea what I'm getting myself into here. Because now that the inside of the mouth is all done, we have to add the teeth, one by one. By the time I finished the first one, I'd cursed myself. So you always do this, you always bite off more than you can chew. Adding some more teeth. By the way, thanks for sticking around. I promise we will get done with the teeth soon. It took me hours to get this done. However, the result was worth it when it was all done. While you're doing sculptures, that's what you have to tell yourself. Because as with the rest of the worm, there's so many things that you do over and over. It's quite repetitive. Now that all the teeth are in, I'm adding a membrane between the openings of the worm's mouth. There you can see the flecking a little bit, not too much though. There you probably see it a little bit better. Just blending that in. Just giving it a little more realism. Okay, now that the mouth opening and the teeth are all in, it's time to do the rest of the worm. And we'll get through this as quickly as we can because it's pretty much the same for all the sections. Because every single section had to be done individually. There we go, all the way down. There it is. All the sections are done, texturized, and baked. Time to add some paint. What I did here is I thinned out a acrylic paint to almost translucent watercolor like, to where the base of the worm was still kind of be able to be seen. with a paper towel to soak up the excess. See how those sections are a little closer together? When you turn it around to the other side, you'll see that they're further apart. Making sure we don't get any paint on the gums, because they weren't going to be painted at all. All right, just about got it done. Then I took another type of color with a little more green in it and went over the brown. Gave it a little bit more of an organic look. Still blotting it away with the paper towel. And then I took a lighter color and did a dry brushing to really bring out the texture detail. You want to make sure you show the details. We don't want all that work to go to waste. So far, so good. When dry brushing, make sure that your brush has just the right amount of paint on it. If you have too much on, it covers up too much. Okay, now we take it off the jig and we're going to attach it to its base. This is a piece of driftwood I found in Morro Bay. It was really perfect for this sculpture. Okay, here I'm adding some epoxy sculpt and attaching it to the base. Wanted to make sure it was really strong enough since it was just a one single piece coming out. I didn't want it to bend. Okay, then we paint it to match the rock. Okay, and then what I did here was I took some cotton roving and I wanted to make it look like a whirlpool of sand coming up behind him. So I mixed a thin mixture of glue, gem tack glue, and put it in a spray bottle. And then I would stretch out the roving and then I would spray it with the spray bottle. And after it dried, it became hard. And then I took some sand and I sprinkled some sand into it, and that kind of gave it the illusion of a whirlpool of sand. I wasn't sure if it was going to work, but it actually did. There's a better look. Little trim here and there. And here he is. All done. Boy, that was a lot of work, especially those teeth. You keep asking yourself questions, why in the world did I do this? And then when it's all done, you say, okay, that's why I did it. The satisfaction of getting it all complete. I like it. I hope you do too. Definitely wouldn't want to get bit by this guy. there you go, everybody. Really appreciate you stopping by to watch my videos. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more. And we'll see you on the next edition of Clay Formations. Bye-bye.